I'm Kelly Kessner. Welcome to another episode of Investors Watchdog University. I'm here with Pat Huddleston. He's the founder of Investors Watchdog. And today we're going to be talking about a particular type of problem that happens in the investment industry, which are misrepresentations and omissions. Pat, what do we mean by that?
Well, you know, Kelly, Boyd Page actually served as a guest lecturer and came in and talked to us a little bit about the duties that people have, brokers have, to tell you the truth, and how it's a violation if they tell you things that are wrong or they leave out important stuff. But just as a reminder, brokers have the duty to tell you the truth and tell you all material information, including things that might have been made material by other things that they've said. And this is important because if there's a dispute, Kelly, you and I know, having done this kind of work, having represented hundreds if not thousands of people, nobody agrees when it comes to the dispute what was said. The customer says, hey, he or she told me this. The broker says, I most certainly did not, never said anything like it. And so, one great bit of advice that we try to give people is that if you're having a conversation where it's important to you what these representations are, go ahead and confirm them in an email, because that can be a way to protect yourself. You won't want to. Your brain will tell you that's just a waste of time because there's never going to be a dispute. Trust me, there might be one. You'd be glad you sent that email.
Confirming everything in an email, taking contemporaneous notes, but also being aware that advisors don't have a crystal ball. They're not going to be able to tell you everything or foresee everything that could happen in the future.
Thank you for that, Kelly. That's absolutely right. I mean, there are an awful lot of good brokers out there, folks who try very hard to make very good decisions. And listen, even if they're trying their best, sometimes they don't always get it right. And we're not talking about trying to take somebody into an arbitration or court who's tried their best. We're talking about somebody who's violated a professional standard here. So really important that you pointed that out.
What would be an example of a misrepresentation? So people are aware when a financial advisor is not just misreading the crystal ball, but actually making a material misrepresentation.
Great question, because some things that are obviously representations aren't material misrepresentations. So if a broker says something like, hey, it's a great company, or this thing could double, you might think, well, hey, I wrote that down. They said that. If it doesn't happen, that's a violation, right? No, it's not. I mean, under the law, that's just known as general puffery, the sort of predictive language like that. It can't be the basis for an action against the broker. So we're talking about concrete facts. So if a broker were to tell you that a company had, for example, an FDA-approved drug that was going to corner the market, and that weren't true, hey, that's a misrepresentation.
That's a misrepresentation, but we also mentioned omissions. What would be a material omission that someone would need to be concerned about?
I could think of an example. You can think about the recall scenario. If a company crows about how much revenue it had in the third quarter, or the broker says, hey, these guys blew the doors off in the third quarter, better than they ever done before, but the truth is that they've been recently ordered to recall every single product they sold in the third quarter.
And they didn't mention that?
And they didn't mention that?
Might be a little bit material.
That's right. And that's something that wasn't said, but nevertheless can form the basis of a valid complaint against the broker.
Well, since you can't confirm what obviously wasn't said in an email, how would an investor protect himself against omissions?
It's important to ask, and we've talked in a previous segment about how the industry is trained to sell, right? They have these professional standards, but they have sales training, and those collide. And so it's important to ask your broker, what are the negatives? Because you're not necessarily going to hear those. He's going to call up and tell you the positive things about this company. Unless you ask for the negatives, it's possible that there could be some negative information out there that you would have liked to have known that you never hear. So specifically ask for the negatives.
Well, thanks, Pat. That's all the time we have for today. We'll catch up to you next time in another episode of Investors Watchdog University. Until then, class dismissed.